Our favourite time of the week and our favourite lady in the world, none other than the great Megyn Kelly, joining us now from the United States. You can see her show on YouTube or listen to it on Sirius XM in the United States. Now, Megyn, I've heard your commentary about the early days of the Trump trial, and the trial itself has really annoyed you.
Oh, I mean, there's so much to this Trump trial already. You know, we're day 2 and it's already jam-packed of elements to discuss. Yes, I'm genuinely upset about what's happening to him because it's not just happening to Trump. It's happening to us. It's happening to America. You and I have been talking about this for the better part of a year now since he got indicted. It really was a before and after moment for America. We went 250 years without doing this to anybody. And here we go. And over what again? What? An expired misdemeanor that he didn't write down properly in the corporate books, that what he paid to Michael Cohen, his lawyer, was in fact a reimbursement for a hush money payment to a porn star with whom he allegedly had a tryst. That's it. For that, we broke this precedent. And now it's led to this. I mean, so much is out of control now. That's the reason we're having a separate Supreme Court hearing on whether a president is entirely immune from criminal indictments when he's president or thereafter. All of this has been set in motion thanks to this one partisan hack, Alvin Bragg, the DA of Manhattan, who ran promising to get Trump. Now here we are having to take this nonsense seriously, having a gag order imposed on Trump, saying you're not allowed to criticize the witnesses, even though they're all over cable news, in a documentary film, and so on, criticizing him every day. And the argument is, well, he's just so powerful. Well, he has such reach. You know, that's because you indicted a president. That's what happens. It's one of the many reasons we never did this before, because sure, he has a very large bully pulpit because he was president, but you can't indict him and then say, oh, we need to forget all about your power when it works to your advantage. It only gets mentioned when it works to our advantage. And look, the future of the United States in some ways lies in the balance here. We are now 7 jurors have been selected out of the 12 as of this hour. They're going to select another 5, and then they're going to need 6 alternates. This thing's going at lightning speed. This judge wants this thing done. He does not want to let Trump delay it because nobody thinks it's going to last past November. So that's not what this one's about, this delay. But the other trials can't begin until this one's done. Every minute Trump is sitting on this witness stand or in this courtroom is one that he cannot be dragged into one of the other trials. And the Democrats will admit, I saw one of Barack Obama's senior advisors on CNN earlier today, that they all realize this is the weakest case and the one that people are least troubled by. So they want a conviction and they want to move past it and they want to get into one of those federal trials or the Fani Willis trial in Atlanta. And listen, the election interference is part of it. This whole past week, Donald Trump's sitting in the courtroom. Joe Biden's been in Pennsylvania, one of the biggest swing states there is. The election interference has already begun. And so if this works and they keep Trump off the campaign trail and they get the likely conviction that they're probably going to get, and they really do appeal to those independents and Republicans who say, it does matter to me, I wouldn't vote for a convicted felon, then we are off to the races in a very dark way when it comes to November 2024.
Now, I saw an interview with Donald Trump Jr. Online today, and he was talking up the reality of how they bent the universe for this case to even happen in the first place. They basically extended the period of time that somebody had to investigate something like this. This is not the first time it's happened when it comes to Trump, but I would like to see Trump make that point a little more every day he goes into the court to explain how he ended up in the court rather than commentating about what's happening each and every day in the court. But they truly did bend the universe to get to where they wanted to go, which was Trump in the dock.
They're not going to do that in front of a jury. I mean, that's not admissible as any relevant element of the case. So they'll have to hear about that in, the papers. I mean, the best example of that is in the E. Jean Carroll civil suit that was brought against Trump, where her rape case had long since expired, the statute of limitations. Her defamation that she claims she was subjected to, that too was potentially expired. And so she decided, she wasn't sure if she was going to bring any sort of claim against him at all. And then they changed New York law to allow dead sexual assault claims to come back to life for a limited time in the wake of the Me Too movement. And partisan operatives went to her and said, let's do this thing. Let's get Trump. And they say that law was changed in part to get Trump. Then the Democratic operatives saw their window. They got her. She was only too willing and went after her. And then, she sued him for sexual assault and in a civil matter. And then he defamed her and she went after him for that too.
And what about the media? Like, we all know that, Trump drives clicks and viewers and all the rest of it. And without him, imagine there'd be no CNN and MSNBC would just disappear. No threat to democracy. But nothing's happening. I mean, the first couple of days are very procedural. They're about deciding which people are going to be on the jury. But even then, both sides have got 10 opportunities to bounce somebody off the jury. And I even noticed there was an interview today with one of the people who had been booted off the jury, but they were so excited at MSNBC because what was it like to be in the room with Trump?
Oh my God, it is unbelievable. The weird love-hate relationship that the media has with Trump is on full display. So you're right. There's not much to cover. It's just jury selection. So what can you really say? No evidence is being introduced, and Trump just has to sit there like a bump on a log while the lawyers and the jurors and the judge do all the work. Well, they've found a way, because it's not interesting unless it's about Trump. They've found a way. I give you this from the Washington Post. As the questioning of potential jurors continued, Trump at one point looked at something on his lawyer's phone. His reaction was not clear. Later, Trump's eyes closed again and his head occasionally dipped. Get a hold of yourself. He looked down. That's your story. Your whole story that you said in 70 words was, he looked down. This is what they're transforming this trial into already. And, we talked earlier privately about this one potential juror who was out on the sidewalk, and the anchors were talking to her like, oh, you were in there? You saw him? How close were you? Oh, you realize, he's a man. He's, he's famous, sure. But, there are a lot of famous people in New York. Generally, we New Yorkers pride ourselves on not getting too excited about them when we see them in real life. They're within 12 feet of us, but they can't contain themselves. It's humiliating to watch. So I don't know what we're going to have in store for us when they actually have witnesses taking the stand. I think it's going to be further evidence of the media beclowning themselves. However, I do want to say one thing about the jury. I think we're already being misled because they've selected now, as I say, 7 jurors thus far. And they're not allowed to ask the jurors would-be how they voted, but they can ask proxies for that. For example, what TV news do you watch? What newspapers do you have delivered to your home? And then one of the guys who made it on the jury says he watches MSNBC and Fox and gets the New York Times delivered to his house. All right. That's a lie. I'm just going to go right ahead and say he's lying. He does not watch MSNBC and Fox. You and I are the only 2 people who watch both MSNBC and Fox because it's our business. We have to know what's happening on the various media channels left and right. The regular civilians don't do that unless they're hate watching. Okay, I could buy that, one of them. And the fact that he gets the New York Times delivered to his house and reads that, and not the Wall Street Journal or the New York Post, which is everybody's favorite newspaper, tells us that he's lying about the Fox News part. Anyway, he made it on the jury. We're seeing a lot of this. So far, I think it's 4 men and 3 women. I guess that's somewhat better for Trump because women don't love Trump. I mean, certainly not in New York. So if I were representing Trump, I'd want to keep as many women off as I could. There's one nurse, female, who works at Sloan Kettering. So instead of dealing with cancer patients for 6 to 8 weeks, helping them, she's got to sit here and decide whether Trump banged a porn star and then didn't document the hush money properly. I mean, this is an absurd waste of everybody's time. But, we have to get Trump and stop Trump. So, pro-democracy, yay, 2024.
All right, away from Trump, there's been a bunch of protests across the United States trying to stop people going about their normal lives as a way of making a point about how people in Palestine, Gaza in specifics, do not have a normal life because of Israel's response to what Hamas did on October the 7th. Now, these protests were wild, they were loud, but they were also full of people who, despite the fact that they claim that it's all about Palestine, really, they were just finding ways to hate the country that they were protesting in, and that's America.
It's really amazing. And I have to be honest, they look like complete morons. Whenever you get anywhere near them with a microphone, you're like, oh God, wish I hadn't come over here. I'm sure the reporters are thinking that because they want to make these people look amazing. And they wound up making themselves look like complete idiots. So, yeah, in several cities across the United States, these pro-Palestinian protesters took to the streets, blocked major bridges with by chaining themselves to full barrels full of cement, stopped people from getting to the airport. It's like, you know what? Unlike you, some of us have jobs. Some of us actually have a productive life and things that we have to get to, important meetings. We're the heart of innovation here in America. We actually need to do that rather than sit around and bitch and moan about our non-problems like you. These people have no problems. And by the way, they probably can't find Israel or Palestine on a map. So whatever. Now they've decided to bring us all into their drama. And more in Dearborn, Michigan, in New York City, steps away from the World Trade Center. We've got these people in the keffiyeh scarves with the full head wrap because nobody wants to show their face when they're saying this nonsense, chanting death to America. Burn it, burn it. How dare they? Steps from where thousands of their fellow New Yorkers died 20 years ago. It's an absolute disgrace. And they don't know anything about anything, Paul. You know, like they're mad right now at Israel because it got attacked by Iran. Like, you realize it was on the receiving end of this attack, right? You know, like, okay, yes, it took out a couple of Iran's military leaders. That's allowed. It wasn't at a consulate. And by the way, we recognize this group that was targeted as a terrorist group. We don't really care where they are. If we can get our hands on them, we'd kill them too if we were America, like we would have with bin Laden. In any event, they don't understand. So they're out there. That's what led them to go out there, that Israel got bombed again and is saying, yeah, we're probably going to do something about that. You just, the TikTokification of news and messaging to our young people has been severely damaging because 9 times out of 10, it is young people out there spewing a bunch of nonsense. And if you see them underneath all their layers, because, you know, you can see a little bit, invariably it's Hispanics, it's some black voters, it's, you know, people who consider themselves brown or black, who are on the left side of the aisle, who have bought into this oppression narrative that the rest of the world is largely pro-Israel because they're white, which, you know, a lot of Israelis would take issue with anyway, but it's absurd. And we're seeing it now live on our streets. We're seeing the praise of the bin Laden letter explaining why he attacked America. You know what? Ike Turner punched Tina Turner because she wasn't singing the song right. Okay? That's what you sound like when you tell us read the bin Laden letter. There's a lot of good explanations in there. But they're repeating it at Wall Street and as a justification for their behavior, for what's happening in Palestine, for why America and Israel are the evil ones. And it's a serious, pernicious problem that I don't see going away anytime soon.
Now, in the olden days of, you know, this century, but just a couple of years ago, if you were in a country that was away from a country that was doing wrong by your thoughts, you would go to the local embassy or you would campaign out the front of the local consulate because that is the representative of the country in your country. But that's all too boring. You see, that's not exciting enough. That's not revolutionary enough. That's not look at me enough, which is why they seem to go any and everywhere other than the places that represent Israel officially in the States.
I've got to talk to you about what happened at Berkeley Law School last week. It proves your point to a T. You're exactly right. This very leftist dean of the law school and his leftist law school professor wife invited a bunch of students to their backyard for a dinner, 60, including the woman who heads up Law Students for Justice in Palestine. This is the group that's been getting banned on college campuses for cheering on the hostage taking and the mass murder on 10/7. They had targeted this guy who's Jewish repeatedly with anti-Semitic cartoons and rantings online. He still invites the head of it. Okay, how do you think that's going to go? What does she do? She shows up in the keffiyeh, the headscarf, all of it. And in the middle of their dinner, she busts out her little Mr. Microphone and starts lecturing everybody on Palestine. And she does her Arabic, Salaikum, Allah, whatever, and talks about how it is the last day of Ramadan. You know what? You're American. Get it together. Not everybody here is celebrating Ramadan, and we don't speak Arabic. She tries to hijack the thing. He interrupts her saying, please leave, please leave. They tell her 30 times, please leave. Now she's a trespasser. She refuses to go. She continues with her little microphone. The wife grabs at the microphone and tries to get this girl to leave. She doesn't shove her. She just tries to like pull the microphone away. Nothing. That's it. That's all that happened. The girl is now claiming, the young victim is now claiming she was assaulted, she was battered, that her breast was groped. That's a lie. That she was strangled by her kefaya as they pulled, that she couldn't breathe. She's trying to make herself into the new George Floyd, basically. I'm the next George Floyd, even though I'm fine and I'm got my pretty makeup on and I'm doing this TikTok video about what a victim I am. She wants the professors fired. She may file a lawsuit. And she also, part of her demands are that the university must immediately add a Palestinian education class in which we talk all about how they're the good guys and Israel sucks. And only on those conditions will she. This has nothing to do with Palestine. It has to do with this young woman's narcissism, sense of entitlement, absolute delight in playing the victim, and pathological lies. And she is not alone. They're everywhere on college campuses, in our law schools, in our med schools, and coming soon to a corporation near you.
Big case in Australia, Tickle versus Giggle. This is a scenario where somebody tried to set up a female-only social media site. However, a trans person has decided that no, they should be allowed in as well. Giggle said no to Tickle, and now it's all in the federal court.
Okay. He tried to pass himself off as a woman, but thanks to Giggle's biometric gender verification software, they determined that he was actually male. Though we also have something over here that would help determine that, and they're called eyes. If you just look at this guy, it is very clear it's not a woman. Okay. So she said no. She said it's a no, Sal Grover. And as Adam Carolla pointed out on my show last week, it's confusing because you got the woman named Sal, and then you got the man pretending to be a woman who says his name is Roxy. Roxy Tickle, really? Okay. Anyway, it's confusing. But Sal is the female, and she's doing a brilliant job of defending herself. She's towing the line. He, the fake woman, went in there and said, not only do you have to let me on, but now I want an apology. I'll settle if you give me a bunch of money and a written apology and open the entire women's only site up to men. And she said no. And I don't think she's a rich woman. It's cost her over $500,000 so far. She had a hearing last Thursday. We're awaiting the decision. And the whole thing is an outrage. This is like, you can't have a website for women where women can discuss women's issues and like talk about apartment shares where only women would be invited. I don't want to live with a guy who's a fake woman. I don't want a penis walking around my apartment unless it's by my choice and design and, with some candles. That's it. I don't want it coming at me from out under a dress. And I am not alone in this desire. There are a lot of lesbians use this website apparently to hook up and find dates. They also do not want a penis. Sorry, it's part of being a lesbian. You're going to have to deal with it, Roxy. So this is an important case. And actually, if the wrong side wins, in other words, his side, it's going to change a lot for our Aussie friends for a long, long time. Like all of the spaces will be mandated open to men like Roxy who claim they're women and thus have a right to be in our locker rooms and our bathrooms and our spaces and our websites and who knows what else. So this needs to go the right way. And we over here in America have been watching it pretty closely too.
Thank you, Megyn. We love you. We'll see you next week.
Thanks for having me. See you guys.